Hi, First Hour Math. I really miss you guys. I hope that you're enjoying time with your family and you're doing fun things. It seems really weird not to have seen you this long, but anyway, one day we'll see each other again. Today, this week, we're going to be doing rounding numbers. Now, what rounding numbers is, it's deciding whether a number, well, it depends. If you're rounding to 10, it's deciding what number it's closer to. For example, if I was to, oops, let me get a different one. Let's say I had the number 15. Okay. Now we know the number 15. The 5 is in the ones place and the 1 is in the tens place. So in this case, I'm going to round to the nearest 10. Well, so that means, okay, the 1 is in the tens place. So my question is this number closer to 10 or is it closer to 20? Okay, because those are the tens that it would be on either side of this, 10 or if I moved it up, 20. So first of all, we have to talk about some other things. There are some rules for rhyming. The first one, this is the one that I have posted in the classroom, and it says, 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, give it a rest. Okay, and what that's referring to is, okay, if I'm rounding to the nearest 10, then I have to look to the number on the right, which is the 5. Okay, so we look at that, and the 5 is going to tell us which number it's closer to. Okay, so it said 5 or more, so this is a 5, raise the score. So that means 15 is closer to 20 than it is to 10. Okay, all right, there's another rhyme, which I don't have in our room, that says, find the place, look next door, 5 or bigger, add 1 more. 4 or less, let it rest. Okay, so let me show you something else. Okay, our numbers, when we write a number, it can end in either 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Okay, so what they do, if your number ends in anything from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, then it goes with the lower number. If it ends in 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, it goes with the higher number. Because if we took all these numbers, and just one second, and we split this group in half, okay, then there's 5 numbers on either side. So the first 5 go to the 0. The second 5 go to the 10. Okay? Or in this case, when we had 15, the first group, okay, if it had ended in any of these numbers in the first group, then the choice would have been 10. But since it ended in a 5, the answer was 20. Okay, so let me do another problem. So let's say I have the number 23. Okay, so I'm going to round to the nearest 10. So my choices would be, is 23 closer to 20 or is it closer to 30? Okay. All right, so since I'm rounding to the tens place, I have to look at the 2 because it's in the tens place. Now, I look at the 2, but then I have to look to the number on the right side of it, okay? The number in the tens place doesn't make the decision. It's the number on the right side, which is a 3. So, when I look at that, and I look at my numbers here, okay, whoops, let me change my choices here. Okay, so 23, is that going to be closer to 20 or to 30? And see, I can see right here, the 3 makes it closer to 20, okay? Let's look at another problem. If I had the number 47, okay? Okay, I have the number 47. Now, I'm going to round to nearest tens, so I underlined the 4 because that's the tens place. But then I drew an arrow to the 7 because it's in the ones place. And the ones place is the number that makes the decision. So 47, is that closer to 40 or is that closer to 50? If I think about my rhyme, 5 or more, raise the score, 4 or less, give it a rest. Well, 7 is bigger than 5, so it's going to make it the bigger number, okay? And, okay, so my answer is going to be 50. Now, let's see. We can also round to the nearest 10 by using numbers that go higher than 10. For example, I'm looking at one on your paper. Let's see, the number 567. So we have to decide, okay, and when we're rounding, the place after the number that you're rounding to, everything after that is always a 0. The place is on the right. So let me see. So 567. So I'm rounding to the tens place. And the number 6 is in the tens place. So I'm going to underline that. And now I'm going to look to the ones place. I'm not looking to the hundreds place. I have to look to the ones. It's always the number on the right. So 567, round that to the nearest 10. So 6 is in the tens place, 7 is in the ones place. So if I use my saying 5 or more, raise the score, then 7 is bigger than 5, and I'm going to raise that score. So this number will round to 570. See, my choices for rounding would be 560 or 570. If I had, let's say this number was 563, okay, then my rounding would be 560, okay. I always, if I round, the place that I'm rounding to, everything on the right side will be a 0. All right, let's talk about rounding to the hundreds. So let's see, the first number on page 38, 483. So if I'm rounding to the hundreds place, I'm going to underline the hundreds place, and I'm going to draw an arrow to the tens place, because that's the place that's on the right of the hundreds place. So rounding to the nearest 100 means, is this going to be 400 or is this going to be 500? Which place is it closer to? All right, so 483. So I underlined the hundreds place and I looked over to the 8. Now the 8, is that going to make the 4 go up, or is it going to make it stay where it's at? Well, if we use our rhyme, 5 or more, raise the score, that means we're going to go higher. So 483 is closer to 500 than it is to 400. Also, if we look on this, we can see the 8 is on the higher end, okay? So that's when you go up. This is when you stay where you're at. Okay. Okay. Let me try. Let me pick another one. All right. This one 826. No, let me choose another one. 384. Okay, since my number is 384, 3 is in the hundreds place, so my first choice is going to be 300, and then after 300, if we count by hundreds, it's 400. Okay, so 384. The hundreds place, the 3 is in the hundreds place. I am going to look to the tens place, and 384, well, 8 is on the higher side, so it's on the 5 or more. So this number is going to round to 400, okay? Now let me go back to 826. So we're going to decide whether it's closer to 800 or 900. Okay. So I underlined the 8 because we're rounding to the hundreds place, and I drew an arrow to the 2 because that's in the tens place. Well, our saying is 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, give it a rest. So 2 is not 5 or bigger. It's on the other side. It's on the side of 4 or less. So this number, 826, is closer to 800 than it is to 900. Okay, and you see, I didn't write 806 or anything like that. It's 800, 900. So whatever place we're rounding to, just remember everything to the right of it will be zeros. Okay. Well, let me do one more that's kind of tricky, and that's number 99. So, okay, 99 is not even 100 yet, right? But if we, oh, I'm sorry. We're rounding this to the nearest 10. Okay, so this is the, okay, this one is the 9 in the tens place, and this is the 9 in the hundreds place, okay? Now, we know with our saying, 5 or more raise the score, we know that this 9 is going to make this higher. So this is going to actually round to 100, okay? So the question would have been, is it closer to 0 or is it closer to 100? But since that's a 9, it's closer to 100, okay? All right, I think that's basically, I mean, that is all you're going to do. You're going to either round to the nearest 10 or round to the nearest 100. Just remember, well, I'm skipping to the third page here. And on the third page of your assignment this week, which would be done on Wednesday, they have some numbers that are a lot bigger, so I'm going to choose some of those. So the first one is 1,725. So we have 4 places here. We have the ones, the tens, the hundreds, and the thousands. And on this page, I'm supposed to round to the nearest 10. So 2 is in the tens place. So the choice is it going to be closer to 1,720 or 1,730? All right, so I underlined my 2, okay, and the number next to the 2 is a 5, okay, and our saying is 5 or more, raise the score. So if we're going to raise it, then that means it's closest to 1,730, okay. Now, see, we rounded to the tens place, okay. So everything in front of it stays the same. Everything behind it becomes a 0. All right, okay, so let me do one more on that page. Here, I'll do the last one. It's 11,893. So we're rounding to the tens place. Since it's 11,893, the 90 is in the tens place. So we have to decide, is this closer to 11,890 or is it closer to 11,900? Now that might sound a little confusing to you, but let's take a look. All right, 11,893. So we're rounding to the tens place, and there's a 9 there. But the 9 doesn't decide. Remember, it's a number on the right. So this 3 will decide if we're going to stay at 90, or if that 9 was going to become a 10, then this would become a 9. But in this case, the 3 is going to make it stay where it's at, right? Because it's in the category of 4 or less. So, whoops. Yeah, so we're over here. So we're 11,890. That would be the correct answer. Okay. Now let's go to the last page where we're rounding to the nearest hundred, and some of these are really a lot bigger numbers. So let me pick one. Okay. 5,659. Okay, we're rounding to the nearest hundred, so I'm going to underline the hundreds place. And then I'm going to draw an arrow to the tens place, because that's the place on the right side. Okay, so we're deciding if this number is, okay, we're rounding to the hundreds, so is it closer to 5,600 or 5,700? Okay, all right, so the 6 is in the hundreds place. Now I'm looking over here to the right side, and that number is a 5. So according to our saying, 5 or more, we're going to raise the score. So then the 5 makes the 6 turn into a 7. So 5,700 is the closest when we're doing rounding to the hundreds place. And let me look at another one. Okay. 3,711. So is that closer to 3,700 or 3,800? So I underlined the 7 in the hundreds place, and I drew an arrow to the 1 in the tens place. So if I look at that 1 is going to keep the 7 a 7, because it's not big enough to make it into an 8. Because our rhyme, you know, it has to end in a 5 or more to go up. Otherwise, we stay where we're at. Okay? So 3,711 is closer to 3,700 than it is to 3,800. All right. And let's see. This one has some bigger ones too. Let's do 62,360. And so we need to know, so the 3 is in the hundreds place, right? So we're going to look to the right, to the 6, to the tens place. So we need to decide, is this closest to 62,300 or is it closer to 62,400? All right, well, when I look to that 6, okay, 6 is going to make it bigger, right? Because 5 or more raise the score. So this is closer to 62,400, okay? And let me do one that's even bigger than that. Let's see. Okay, 161,308. That's a big number. The 3 is in the hundreds place, and I'm going to draw a line to the 0 in the tens place, okay? So we have to decide, is this closer to 161,000? Oh, no, sorry, 161,300 or 161,400? Okay, so if we follow our rule, the 3, we look on the right, and that number is 0. So 0 is in the 4 or less category, which means we're going to stay over here in 161,300. Okay, that's the closest one. All right, well, hopefully you can understand how this works. You guys are really smart. You should be able to catch on. If you have trouble with remembering the rhyme, well, you could always write it down. 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, give it a rest. And don't forget, find the place, look next door. We're going to look to the right. But the other thing to do is to write these numbers down and draw a line breaking them up. This is the number. These numbers will tell you if you're going to stay where you're at or if you're going to go bigger. Okay? If you have any questions, please, 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 please let the teacher know that you're working with and that's checking on you, and I would be more than glad to help you. Okay. All right, you guys. Have a good week, and I will talk to you next Monday. All right. Bye-bye.